Farm, family, community. This is Midwest Farm Weekly.
Good morning, I'm Elaine Wells and welcome to Midwest Farm Weekly. On today's show, a shortage of milk cartons is impacting school lunchrooms around the nation. We will check in with a local processor to see how Wisconsin is managing the disruption. Plus, connecting farmers with people who need food. It's a growing program linking neighbors in our state. We have details on applying for a grant. And you could call it the butterfat boom, why full-fat dairy is making its way back into more American homes and what it could mean for farmers. This week's crop report shows some snow in parts of the state, increased crop moisture, and it slowed field work. 73% of topsoil in the state is now in the adequate category for moisture. 12% is even reporting a surplus, numbers we have not seen all year due to dry weather. Corn for grain harvest is now half done, falling about 2 days behind an average year. Moisture content there about 21%. Soybean harvest is on par with an average year, but now 8 days behind 2022, with that crop 83% harvested. Fall tillage continues to lag, now 11 days behind last year. Though dairy products typically enjoy a boost in demand this time of year, current milk prices have farms struggling to make a profit. The October federal order Class 3 milk price is $16.84 per hundredweight. That is down $1.55 from September, driven primarily by a sharp drop in cheese prices. The price is, however, nearly $5 below October of 2022. A number of factors led to record prices last year, including a lack of dairy farms expanding, keeping production level. We also experienced strong international demand as the rest of the world had lower production. So why did our prices fall in 2023? I had the chance to speak with a market expert from UW-Madison Division of Extension.
We started seeing that supply response from the producer level in the U.S. domestically, right? So that's the first part of kind of what started to drive prices down. The second was that domestic demand started to soften a little bit, right? And the third part is that the rest of the world came back online with their production. So all of these things kind of coupled together all at the same time kind of led to the situation that we're in now, with milk prices dropping quite a bit lower from where they once were before. So one unique thing about this particular situation is that in order to have a recovery, it's going to have to almost all come from the demand side of the equation, right? So supply side, we would need to see a large change in supply in order to get kind of back to that regular, we'll call it equilibrium level. So if we have to see a lot of this come on the demand side, that means it could be a very long road ahead. So I think the best that we can keep our fingers crossed for is just that continual march up, right? I don't think there's going to be a big jump to like, all right, we were all the way down, now we're going to come all the way back up and be sitting terrific. I think it's going to be that if we can keep that steady incremental march up, I think that would be maybe the best route forward.
Now, when it comes to milk futures, Class 3 milk, or the milk that's used to make cheese, prices stay in the $17 range through the new year. When it comes to a nationwide shortage of half-pint milk cartons, it's hitting several states now. Local 5's Samantha Peters spoke with one local dairy processor to see how this shortage could impact us here at home.
Lamers Dairy in Appleton is seeing some supply constraints in their paper packaging.
We had heard a number of weeks ago that there was a plant that was going through basically some issues in a different part of the country, and it was going to impact the supply of our paper packaging.
Eric McGuire, the business director at Lamers Dairy, explained they were not impacted for a number of weeks, but now they've been notified the packaging will be more difficult to come across.
It impacts our store from the standpoint that customers are not going to be able to find certain package sizes for a period of time.
Lamers Dairy expects that in the coming months, school districts in the area will begin experiencing issues and will no longer be able to purchase milk in these half-pint cartons. So as they prepare for that packaging shortage, they're looking for alternatives like these plastic bottles.
McGuire hopes the school districts they directly supply the cartons to won't see too much of a shortage. But he says shortages of the actual processing facility that bottle milk are the main cause.
The issue kind of stems from consolidation in the industry. So because there's fewer processors in the industry, there's fewer suppliers. And anytime one of those suppliers or processors has an issue, it can really impact the industry as a whole.
In the state of Wisconsin, there are only 3 regulated plants, but McGuire explains there are also a handful of farmstead operations. In Appleton, Samantha Petters, Local 5 News.
And Lamer's business director told Samantha that other organizations they distribute milk to could be impacted, such as hospital cafeterias and food pantries. In rural areas of the country, the U.S. is facing a shortfall of veterinarians to treat livestock and poultry. In fact, only 3 to 4% of new veterinary graduates have entered food animal-related practice over the past 20 years. Our food supply depends on farmers, and farmers, of course, depend on large animal veterinarians to keep their herds and flocks healthy. Adding more vets in the short term is not a realistic solution, but making the ones we have more efficient could be. That's the idea behind a U.S. Department of Agriculture grant program funded through tax dollars. The money is helping vets hire people, buy equipment, and streamline operations.
That's a big deal because if we didn't have this piece of equipment, we typically are working in chutes that the producer owns. Sometimes they do have an ability to tie up a hoof. Other times we're figuring out what boards we can use to bring up a hoof with ropes and lariats and things like that. Much less secure.
There are a number of reasons for the veterinarian shortage, including lower pay than small animal or family pet vets, long, unpredictable hours, and even physical concerns because working with large animals that can weigh hundreds of pounds can be dangerous. The grant window is currently open for a number of Wisconsin counties. We have a link to apply for the funds in the Midwest Farm section of wearegreenbay.com. Wisconsin FFA earned 3 national proficiency awards at the recent convention. Of local interest, Cody Hudzik of Wyowega Fremont chapter is the 2023 National FFA Agricultural Proficiency Award winner that is in vegetable production, entrepreneurship placement category. He managed an aquaponics system in his agriculture classroom and also worked at Del Monte growing green beans, potatoes, carrots, and beets. We also send congratulations to Brooke Casey from New London's FFA chapter for winning the Veterinary Science Entrepreneurship Placement Proficiency Award. Casey works as a veterinary assistant at her local clinic. Welcome back. There is a growing program in Wisconsin aimed at strengthening local food systems, supporting Wisconsin farmers, and distributing fresh, nutritious foods to underserved communities. Krista Carnegie is here from the Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection with a look at the impact. And we also say good morning to Beth Heller here from Wello and local farmer Ryan Sullivan. Both of them have benefited from this. We'll get to their stories in a moment. Good morning to all of you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Krista, introduce us to this program. Local Food Purchase Program is the title of it. What does it mean?
Last year, the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade and Consumer Protection entered a cooperative agreement with USDA to create the program. And a little more than half the funds are going to be available for purchasing foods, and then the rest is going to be available for kind of the logistics and transportation and training farmers how to access this market.
There was a couple pieces of data that I thought were fascinating of counties served, people reached. And these are partnerships and connections that maybe wouldn't have happened without a program like this in place. I mean, that's a lot of food that was delivered.
Absolutely. And it's in all parts of Wisconsin that there is a need. And this is a great program to help connect the farmers that are growing the food and providing it back to their local communities.
We have one of them here. Ryan is a farmer. Introduce us briefly to your business and why this was such an important partnership for you.
We're a diversified small family farm, so we produce a lot of vegetables, grass-fed lamb, beef, some pork this year. This program has just had a huge impact. It's really helped us have stability dealing with the contract and being able to plan on delivering throughout the year, just really help us step up to the next level.
Right, I know you're a veteran. Thank you for your service.
Yes,
Were you new to agriculture?
Yes.
When you started this farm?
Yes.
Talk about being a new farmer and why some of the support was critical to your business.
There's a lot to learn. Big change. My wife and I knew that it was something we wanted to get into, and we've gotten a tremendous amount of support. Farmer Veteran Coalition has been huge in the state. DTCP has helped us with several programs. This program is huge, so we've been really fortunate. There's a lot of assistance for anyone that wants to get into farming.
So we have to talk about how we get your fresh produce. It looks fantastic. You got stuff this time of year that you've kind of stocked away for us to eat in the winter, or are we going a little dormant until we hit hoop house season?
Exactly. The greens are coming to an end, but
Okay.
the hoop houses are being replanted and turned over, so
Great.
there's more good stuff to come.
All right, well, we'll connect you on our website with his so that you can be sure to shop local as well. Beth, talk about how Wello has used some of the grant money from this program.
Yeah, absolutely. At Wello, we build community conditions that help all people thrive and achieve well-being. And we know that when we meet our local food needs with local producers, we're creating a community that is healthy and resilient. So since 2020, we have literally been buying food from our local farmers and distributing it to local resource centers in our community that serve low-income populations of color, and just really making that connection between our farmers and our community, and just investing in health and well-being.
Somebody listening might say this seemed sort of obvious, but why was it important to have someone kind of leading the charge, so to speak?
Well, it's really interesting. I think no one had really, I don't even know how to answer that question. I think we've always known the connection is there. I think one of the key parts of this is LFPA funding.
Yes.
I can speak for Wello. That allowed us to really extend the footprint of our program and buy a lot more produce from farmers than we ordinarily would have been able to.
Because as a nonprofit, certainly you're relying on donations and volunteers to make things happen.
Absolutely.
So when a program can give you a boost like this, I would imagine it makes a big difference. Krista, these are just 2 stories, and we had a lot of different partnerships that were made across the state.
There's over 100 farmers that are involved in the program, and I think with the new funding that's available next year, we'll be able to help even more because we're going to have a community partners grant that's going to help organizations work with those networks in their local community to help get the food and distribute it out in their communities, and then additional funding for farmer grants too.
You said, you mentioned grants. The window is open right now. Who do you encourage? Log on, take a look, see what's available, maybe even out of the box for some of our producers and processors out there.
Sure. So 2 grant programs. One is the Farmer Grant Program, which helps farmers who might want to get into this market of helping those in need. It's going to help give them some contracts, and it's also going to train them about getting and accessing the wholesale market. And then there's the Community Partners Grant, and that is for the organizations who want to bring all the partners together and help do good in their community.
I also noticed on the website there's a map that's being populated, right? If we are looking to shop local and support farmers like Ryan, you have a great interactive map there too.
The local food directory helps connect you to the farmers who are growing food and have available product for you to buy.
Fantastic. Well, we will link you up with all of these available grant options on our website. That's wearegreenbay.com. You'll click on the Midwest Farm tab. Congratulations on your growing business and for the work you guys are doing in our community.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to Midwest Farm Weekly. Meteorologist Alexis Staniak joins us now with a drought monitor that has updated quite a bit from last week.
Yeah, you know, it's greatly improved even since the summer. As of November 1st, though, we are still below average for this time of the month by about 2 inches here in Green Bay. Most of us, though, are now above average. Wausau, Eau Claire, above average for precipitation just for the month, though, by about 2 inches. For the season, though, still below average. So that's for the entire year of 2023. For this season, we've seen just over 26 inches of rainfall as of Thursday. Right around average would be closer to 28.5 inches. And then for the year of 2022, we were well above average at almost 31 inches. Now, typically, we see our first snow this weekend. We already saw snow October 31st at 0.7 inches to come through. Nothing since then. Green Bay typically sees their first average snowfall on November 13th with at least 1 inch of snow, averaging right around November 23rd. Manitowoc typically sees first measurable snowfall on November 27th with an average of 1 inch around November 30th, and then Shawano November 17th and an average of 1 inch of snowfall on November 20th. Not much snow going to come through within the next 10 days. Could see some lighter flurries or even passing light snow showers north of Green Bay, further into north and central Wisconsin and covering the UP. However, we are likely to see some rainfall come through within the next week and a half. Looks like we could accumulate anywhere from about 1/4 up to maybe 1/2 inch of rainfall here in Green Bay. And the reason for no snow and more rain is because of the big warm-up happening at the end of this weekend. 45 for this Saturday, so below average. And then look at that, by Sunday, 51 degrees, 54 on Monday, warming up again into Tuesday, 57 degrees, 61 by Wednesday, maybe holding on to a low 60 on Thursday, and then we'll slowly cool down by the end of our next weekend, 48 by next Sunday. So the Climate Prediction Center does have us in this well above average category for temperature temperature for the next 8 to 14 days, and we are above average for precipitation as well for most of the United States. That's coming from all the way from Florida, from Southern California, up here towards northeast Wisconsin. Only below normal area would be in the northeast part of the United States. So temperatures above average heading into mid-November, as well as precipitation, and it is already November. Typically for this month, we'll see an average high temperature of 43.5 degrees, an average low temperature of 28.9 degrees. Average precipitation, liquid precipitation, so rainfall just under 2 inches, and snowfall we typically see this month just over 3 inches of rainfall. Stay with us. More ag news coming up after the break.
In today's Milk Money segment, animal fats, in particular butterfat, are back in vogue from a dietary standpoint. So what does this mean for producers and processors? Corey Geiger is the lead economist for dairy with CoBank's Knowledge Exchange Division. Good morning to you, Corey.
Glad to be here, Melaine.
Well, this is a new position for you. Congratulations on that. But you're certainly not new to dairy research. Give us a little bit of your background.
Grew up in northeast Wisconsin in Manitowoc County, and for 28 years was the editor, one of the editors on the Hordes Dairyman editorial team, and traveled around the U.S. and the world covering dairy.
So you just published a piece on something you titled The Butterfat Boom. Give us the Cliff Notes version. We can read the full one online.
Sure, for sure. So butterfats fell out of vogue over the years for a number of reasons. Margarine put some pressure on it. Then we had the dietary cardiovascular and heart hypothesis, which said animal fats weren't good for in the human diet, and that is all changed and science has come out. So now milk coming off of dairy farms is growing the amount of butterfat in it.
Interesting. You mentioned the consumer choices. We have started to see full-fat dairy have a resurgence when it comes to not only consumers' tables at home, but even lawmakers pushing to get it back in schools.
Absolutely. The flavors in the fat and the nutrition. There's some really good positive health benefits to it.
You shared a number of interesting graphs. I want to start with one that has to do with the butterfat content in milk shipped from dairy farms. Talk us through this as we're watching.
This is a really neat graph. USDA data back to 1924. So pre-World War II and through World War II, we had a lot of butterfat was high in U.S. milk supply, and we talked about how that kind of fell off a cliff there, driven by margarine and this saturated fats weren't good for the human diet in terms of cardiovascular. And then this skyrocket from 2010 forward, as the tide has turned, there's science is building that saturated fats, not only in dairy, but all animal fats are good for you. And so now consumers are demanding whole fat, and whole fat can be fluid milk, could be butter, could be high-fat cheeses.
You also say that butterfat production is outpacing milk production. They used to be pretty symmetrical, not anymore.
Well, yeah, those numbers, they were one and the same, and in the last 10 years, it's changed. Butterfat production has grown 27%, that's that yellow bar, and milk production itself, pounds shipped from farms, is only up 15%. So there's an 8% difference, and a lot of people haven't wrapped their head around that yet. So because it impacts what's happening on processing plants, especially cheese plants.
Sure, so when a farmer is looking at those numbers, what do they do to capitalize on this?
So 92% and all of milk priced in the United States is on multiple component pricing. So that's the butterfat and the protein. So the more pounds of those you ship, the more you get paid in your milk check. That's the big win here.
When we look at exports, you say the U.S. barely sends any of this overseas.
Yeah, so a lot of people in dairy circles know the export story, but that green bar there is what we call skim milk solids. So if you think of the old days when you got milk in bottles and you skim the butter off, the butter fat off the top, we're skimming it, keeping it home. So the yellow bars is actually what we're exporting if you look at butter fat. But the green bars is what is after the butter fat's been taken off. So we're exporting a lot of dairy proteins, which are really good. Consumers around the world are demanding them, but the butter we're keeping home. And the other part of that story is we're importing more butter, the product butter, because we can't even produce enough at home right now.
You were talking about that. The Irish butter trend was very, very all over my Pinterest board and things like that. But in the U.S., can we get products that are mimicking this? Can we capitalize on some of that?
Yeah, there are some dairy co-ops that are up they're getting processes online, not only in California, but the upper Midwest to capitalize on that. The thing of it is, though, even if they want to fill all those orders, we need to make more butterfat. So if the national bulk tank's 4.1%, we really need 4.2 or 4.3, and we're already at record levels.
So an emphasis on components.
Big emphasis on components, absolutely.
How do we read your entire report? Because this is just the surface of the butterfat boom.
It is. So you go to Knowledge Exchange Division, at CoBank, but cobank.com. That's cobank.com.
All right, always a good time of year for butter as we head into the holidays, but sounds like this trend may continue year-round. Corey, thank you for your insight on the topic.
You're welcome, Elaine.
We will link you there on our website. That's wearegreenbay.com. Remember, you can watch full episodes of the show when it works for you at the same website. Thanks for joining us.